Hi class, my name is Taylor Morano and I did my research paper on the organizational culture in an athletic department and how that organizational culture affects and relates to the success of the athletic department and its student athletes. With the topic introduction, let's just take a basic look at organizational culture and in general what that looks like. So the organizational culture of an organization basically forms off of the values, the norms, the guiding beliefs, and the understandings of what are going on in that organization and what is to be expected of that organization. It's that unwritten feeling or the vibe of the organization that you get just when you're around the employees that are in it, when you're in the buildings, when you're around the actual work. It's that feeling that you can understand of that organization. It's that commitment that the organization also has to its beliefs and what it understands about its employees and the work that they're doing there. There's two levels of it, visible and underlying. The visible are what you see. The way people dress, the way people handle situations, the visible elements of the actual organization. Whereas the underlining values are the assumptions and the beliefs and those attitudes and feelings of the organization. So there's two different levels to it. And this organizational culture stems from the leader or the founder who required specific ideas and values that have been passed down from CEO to CEO, from leader to leader, and maybe stem from the founder or have come from different leaders that have led the organization. Looking at the organization in an open systems policy, if you look at that, an athletic department is a really, really good example of an open system because of what an athletic department does. It hires coaches who then go out and recruit from the community that can be seen as the external environment. They then educate and strengthen the student athlete, all while prepping him or her to graduate and enter the real world. It's kind of a different way of looking at an open system, but when you break it down by what each team does in that athletic department, it really does make sense of what an open system is. So stemming exactly at an athletic department and its goals and its cultures, I did a lot of reading on articles that talked a lot about how an athletic department's goals and its culture stems a lot broader than just the NCAA rules in the rule book. It's more than compliance and beyond the discussion of those violations and those rules that happen in athletic departments. It has to be more than that, in all honesty, because of the student athletes, because of what the purpose of athletic departments are, and that is to graduate its student athletes. That's to produce a sport and then help a student athlete get a student athlete to graduate and move on into the real world. So then when you're looking at the goals of the department, that's exactly what they need to be. Now there's two separate ones. You've got development goals and processes, and then you've got performance goals and processes. And development goals and processes are the academics and the social and cultural physical well-being of the student athlete, whereas then the performance goals are the specific goals of the actual athletic department, so the athletic achievement and the financial performance. And both of those two separate goals of the department are a direct correlation of the organizational culture and how they relate to one another, and how the excellence in the sports and the education goals have to be in line. And if they're not in line, then the success of the athletic department is in jeopardy. And what the athletic department is going to do is in jeopardy because they're not in line. So it's interesting because it all stems from that leader. Like we discussed in the previous slide, the leader sets the tone for the athletic department and what the culture is going to be like. And if that culture has a solid formation and is strong in its base, then the success can radiate off of that. One of the tools that I looked at in my research that really helped me understand a good leader and a bad leader and what separates a good and a bad leader was the toxic triangle theory. And the toxic triangle theory, as you can see in the picture, is a triangle. with the destructive leaders at the top, which in this case would be the athletic director, would be at the top of that. And then you've got its susceptible followers on the left side, and then you've got the conductive environments to the right side. Now, all of the research that I read, the destructive leaders was simply the athletic director, but I also, from my past experience, which we'll get to at the end of the presentation, there's also associate athletic directors that are right underneath an athletic director in an athletic department. And I also think that you could throw in the senior women's administrator and the facilities administrator and the compliance director and the athletic trainer director, those four that are sub underneath the athletic director but are associate athletic directors. I personally think that those individuals can also be considered destructive leaders as well, and can fall into that bubble at the top of the triangle. Just because they have so much pull and they have so much say within their department. Yes, they answer to the athletic director. However, they do a lot of the other work that the athletic director doesn't do, overseeing the entire department. With that being said, looking at let's start with conducive environments, and that is all the actual environment of the athletic department. So the instability, the threats, the culture values, the lacks of checks and balances, and ineffective institutions, that's the environment. That's what's going around all of the people that are in the department. And then you've got the followers, and those have two separate ones too. You've got conformers, and then you've got colluders. And the colluders are people that agree with the athletic director no matter what. They have the same values and means as the athletic director, so they're going to be more of a quote-unquote destructive leader than they would on the opposite side of it, where you've got conformers who are not necessarily going to agree specifically with the athletic director and what the athletic director is doing. The importance of this toxic triangle theory when looking at an athletic department is because if that athletic director has the characteristics of a destructive leader, and that is what's rating off into the athletic department, that's when the culture is not positive. It's not in a way that can produce successful student athletes, successful programs, and in hindsight, then a successful athletic department in general. And it all starts with the charisma of the destructive leader, the personalized power, the negative life themes, the ideology of hate, and how that athletic director radiates all of that off of them to their employees and what it can do for itself. So looking at that, can the culture change? That's the big question. Can it change? And if the department sees the change being able to happen, can its employees keep up with it? So does firing the leader, aka the athletic director, produce that culture change? Then are the employees ready for it? Is there a readiness and an eagerness to change? And is the compatibility of the change effort and the culture aligned? I read a lot of articles about, just in general, about companies being able to handle change, not just athletic departments, but companies in general. Can they handle that change? How do you prep your employees for that change? And with athletic departments, it's very difficult because there's so much turnover. There's always coaches leaving. There's always directors leaving. There's always administrators leaving. The turnover is so high that the employees have to be ready for change because they have to be able to adapt, because that's the world of athletics. It's always rotating. People are always moving on to different conferences, to different states. They're moving back and forth. And so that turnover rate is so high. So that change, getting used to different people around you, is just such a norm in the athletic world. Lastly, looking at this in a reflection of my career and myself, is I actually work for the SLU athletic department. I work for the women's basketball team, and I've worked in two athletic departments in my career, and they are polar opposites. And it's very difficult to work in an environment that is not culturally sound, where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel like people have your backs. And I think that is what is most important in an athletic department, because we all work together and we all bounce off of each other, and one cannot happen without the other. And so it's very interesting to look at something like this and then apply it to what I do every single day, because this is what I do every single day. So it was very interesting to take a step back and look at it and apply it then to myself and my career, my present career, and my future.